Welcome to SubReddit Surfing with Vinnie and Cardiff. Surfing subreddits and interviewing creeps and various other people on the internet for your enjoyment. Gagia.
Aloha, creepos. Welcome to SubReddit Surfing, the show that promises to do better than we did last week. It's a great new episode. I'm your host. My name is Vinnie Paulino, and joining me is my best spud, Cardiff Electric, who's celebrating President's Day today. Looking good, Cardiff.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today. And there's no way we can't beat last week's episode, Vinny. We could stop now and have completed that task.
Well, everybody, I'm going to take Cardiff up on that. Have a great rest of your Monday night. Raw is starting. Enjoy. Gagia. Just kidding. For those of you who don't know, SubReddit Surfing is the show where every week we visit a different subreddit, and in that subreddit, we place a link allowing anybody who uses that page to come on the show and talk to us about why they were there. Now, Cardiff, shall we tell everybody what subreddit we're going to be on right after we do a roll call?
Sure. Roll call sounds great. Kinky Loco was first in the chat. Congratulations, Kinky Loco. Tiger Lily's here. Randall Thor. Vinny, this is the who's who of chatters. This is the most impressive list of chatters I've ever seen. Obnoxious John is in the house. Richard Porter, Tim Downs, Principled Uncertainty, Cranberry Electric, the great
Cranberry Electric.
Tickus, the Blatcast, a show I've never done, but I would do one day. Dylan from somewhere. Oh, Umlaut's here. Wow. MT. Hey, Vinny, we have a celebrity in the chat today.
Which one?
One of the greatest ivory ticklers of all time, Mr. Wes Webb. Welcome to the stream, Wes Webb.
Hello, Wes. Thank you for joining us.
Jules
tonight.
David is here. Famous wife of famous podcaster.
The person that you snubbed for an autograph?
Yes. Deitois is here. Logging Road King is here. Mikey Ghost Shitted is here. Can you believe that? Leland Mandingo, Bill Bixby, Spaghetti Tooth John. The list is endless.
This is out of control.
Amorak Gaming.
Aloha to all of you.
Yes. It's amazing. They're all here. The who's who of beloved chatters are here tonight.
We're going to get after it this evening, man. This is going to be quite the show. We do have a guest lined up, everybody. He's waiting to join us. So let's jump into where we're going to be this week. Cardiff, what is today's page?
Before we do that, I think it would be proper for us to say a prayer, Vinny, before we delve into our atheism. See what I did there?
You're just trolling now. That's right, Cardiff. We are visiting r/atheism today. It is a massive Reddit page, 2.8 million members strong. There's currently 3,000 people on that page right now. Right now. It says it right here. It's in the top 1% of Reddit communities.
I wish they were watching this show.
You maybe should have made your post a little more convincing. Now, we ran into one of the same issues that we run into when we post a link on the subreddit page.
I caused a bit of controversy.
This week, they're mad at Cardiff because they think that I think it might be the hair, that you were out to proselytize, that you were out to evangelize, I believe is the proper term.
I don't think that's it, but we get what you're saying.
Evangelize is the proper term, sir.
I think what I was able to surmise from my interactions was a lot of people go on there to convert, and they may use multiple pieces of bait to try and reel some people in that they're looking to convert. So I think
little pieces of the Eucharist they just leave out there for people to catch.
Who left all this water and wine here? Who did this?
All these loaves and fishes are just sitting out.
Yes. What could we possibly loaves of fishes? Did you say
loaves and fishes?
Oh, loaves and fishes. Yes.
That is what Jesus multiplied to feed I believe the multitude is what the Bible says.
But I believe
I know the Bible pretty well.
How so, Vinny? How so? Are you a religious man?
No.
Oh. Please expand.
Okay. Well, I know we have a guest on that wants to talk about the same thing, but I will just tell you folks, my personal experience with this, I don't believe I'm an atheist. I probably fall more under the agnostic category than an atheist because, we could be in the Matrix. And if we're in the Matrix, that means there's intelligent design. And who am I to say aliens didn't make all of us? Who knows? I don't know what it is. All I know is the guy in the pointy hat in Rome, I don't know if he's got the whole story, is what I'm saying. So I'm not saying I don't believe in a higher power. I'm just saying I don't think any of us have any comprehension of what it possibly is or could be.
I think I'm along some of those lines too. I'm more of an I don't know than I have a leaning on either way.
I love this. This is exactly right. TK, agnostic is the way to go. Who cares? That's right. If there is a God or there's not a God, if there is a higher power, if there's not a higher power, I still got to make breakfast tomorrow.
Twice.
We got to have secondsies.
Yes.
Now, Cardiff, you said you kind of believe along the same lines. I grew up in a very, very, very religious house, but here's the thing, man, and I don't really want to get into all of this. Maybe I'll talk about it later, but here's the deal. I'll lay this out for you. When I was 5 years old, my father had a traumatic brain injury, a very traumatic brain injury. They thought he was going to be dead, that he was going to go brain dead, and that he would never walk or talk or be able to do anything again. Well, the fact is, my mother was we were living out in California, and his entire family was in New York, and they all found Jesus. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like the tongue talking Jesus. They found the laying on of hands, healing revival Jesus.
The good Jesus.
Sure. The one that people like him. People like him. Mm-hmm. New Testament Jesus and I have no beef. There's only New Testament Jesus. There's no Old Testament Jesus. But I'm just trying to say that when this accident happened, we lost everything. We lost our house. We had to move from San Diego. We ended up living in a small room in my uncle's house for a while. My dad was like in a rehab. It was really awful. And my mom really found religion through my grandmother and my aunt, I believe. And they would take him to like these healing, crazy revivals and take little Vinnie to sit there in the corner and be bored and just watch what I still don't understand people were doing. And I mean, I went to church every Sunday. They put me in a Christian school. They put me in like a private school till I got thrown out in 7th grade. But I grew up with this stuff heavy. Okay. Very, very heavy in my life. So I know a lot of people that went through that same situation have a lot of anger towards religion and Christianity now. And I totally understand that. I totally understand it. I am not as angry. I do think a lot of stuff is a crock of shit. I'll be honest with you guys tonight. I try to call it how I see it, but I think the majority of people who embrace religion aren't doing it to hurt or oppress. They're doing it because they believe that's the right thing to do. And you have to be honest with yourself, because in this country, we've been pushing this stuff for a long time, really hard, since at least the 50s, when we changed our national slogan to "In God We Trust." There's been a heavy Christian agenda in this country. So a lot of people have grown up with this. I don't know if you guys out there have the same experiences, but again, I don't have the anger that some people do, but we'll talk about that tonight. Is that enough, Cardiff? Did I say enough, or did I ramble?
No, that was good. And I think I'm along the same lines as you. I grew up very, very Catholic household. I was an altar boy. I think Obnoxious John was also an altar boy, so he knows, where I'm coming from here. But spent a lot of time, at church, in the church, and I never, I got to an age, and again, early on, I did it because that's what you did. But I got to the point where, the more I started thinking about stuff, I'm like, it just, it struggled with my logic, I guess. A lot of things where it's just like, that why? I think why is an important question, and you ask that enough, and it just stops, kind of stops making sense. Some things, but again, I still, I don't know what 90s movie I'm about to quote right now. I think it was Contact, but I do think it's when you look out and see everything in the world, it does seem a little too perfect for it to be a coincidence or a mistake.
Cardiff, the most amazing thing that we have, the most amazing thing that none of us understand is life. We don't understand consciousness. Nobody understands consciousness. Neuroscientists still study it. Nobody knows why our brains process information the way we do. No one knows why we feel happy. No one knows what the fuck happy is. Okay? I don't know how this all happened. And that's the problem. A lot of different people have a lot of different stories on how this happened. And stories about how this happened, how life began and, has been used in a lot of different ways since the dawn of man. In a lot of ways, religion was the first government for people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the church was in charge.
Some places still is.
Correct.
Yes.
So it's like the humanity and religion, I feel like, have just been intertwined since day one, because I think that the one thing we have all wanted to know since we've been able to have conscious thought and be able to actually understand society and the world around us is, where did this start? Where did this come from? So it creates an opportunity for a lot of people to try to fill that hole and kind of create answers.
And I think more importantly for a lot of people, where does it go? Where do you end up?
Right. And so the thing is this, you have a book like the Bible, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about tonight, which is, over 2,000 years old, a lot of different authors. And they believe that book is the only book that has any of the answers. And it's very hard, the more you learn about science, the more you learn about the world, to be able to reconcile a 2,000-year-old book with what we know about how the world works now. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard to reconcile the two. And it creates a lot of drama.
I think I understand what you're saying. We need a Bible YouTube channel, don't we?
Yeah, but you're going to have to pay for it.
Oh, yes.
Kick up 10%, kids. So we have a guest today, Cardiff. Let's bring him on. What do you say? Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Subreddit Surfing. It is Colt. Hey, Colt.
Hello. I put up a nice picture for us all to look at since I'm not turning on my camera.
Oh, Perfect. That's fine. That's fine. Most people wish I would turn mine off.
I'm right there with them.
Oh, well, nice. Cardiff, get rid of this guy. He's out of here.
He used the lines I gave him perfectly. Thank you, Colt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We got our own private chat going on.
What is the picture you put up? Does this have any significance?
This is a painting by this is a Renaissance painter named Botticelli. This is his painting.
Rings of Hell, right?
That is the Rings of Hell. This is a painting this gentleman did based on Dante's Divine Comedy.
And what a joke it is, huh?
It's not particularly funny.
I know.
Comedy didn't mean today. Comedy means funny. Like classic literature, comedy means a story where everyone doesn't die.
I don't think that's correct, but okay.
I'm teasing. From what I remember in English class, I think drama, like Shakespeare's drama, is everyone dies at the end, like Hamlet, and then in his comedies, like they're more happy, and I think that's where it comes from. But I don't know.
Works for me. That makes the Bible a comedy. So, Colt, tell me a little bit about what originally brought you to the Atheist subreddit page.
I've been in. I probably admitted to myself when I was about 23 that I was an atheist. I didn't really believe in any God anymore. And I don't, for a long time, I just didn't care. Like like I stopped liking Star Wars. I think it's all made up, so it doesn't really matter if. Like I don't think about it, like I prefer to think about like Star Wars or Marvel movies or like video games or whatever. But I go through stages of like caring more about atheism and like learning more about the Bible and stuff like that. So recently I've been spending a lot of time on the atheism subreddits and YouTube pages and things like that.
So would you say you grew up very religious till you were 23, or
Yeah.
what was religion to you before 23?
So I was yeah, so I live I don't live in the Bible Belt, but I live in the Midwest. It's a very religious state. 70% of the state I live in identifies as Christian,
Okay.
which isn't saying much because that's most of the country. But so everyone I know, I only know two atheists
Interesting.
yeah, that are willing to talk, that have like told me anyway. So my father is very religious. My mother is also very religious, but slightly less so. I think it matters like less. Like there are things that I think matter more to my mom than religion, but my dad is highly religious. So grew up going to church.
Do they ever have conflicts over religion, your parents?
Well, they're still not that I know of. I know that they are still married because Christianity says you cannot get divorced.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
The good book gotcha.
The good book gotcha.
Now, is that your feeling, or is that something he's yelled at your mother many times in a fight?
Has he ever thrown a plate of spaghetti at a wall?
They went to marriage. There was a rough patch in the marriage several years ago, and they went to a marriage counselor, and the marriage counselor told them that, yeah, you should probably just get divorced. And they stopped going to that marriage counselor because they said, well, Christians shouldn't get divorced.
Wow.
So that's the main reason they're still together. So yeah, Christianity, I guess.
That might be the only reason not everybody that's married is divorced.
It might be, yeah.
Like if you realize, if all Christians, like if Christians believed in divorce, that number would skyrocket. What do they say? It's like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. The stats are insane.
50% of marriages end in divorce. The other 50% end in death. So
it's somewhere between like 70 to 50% of marriages, but that doesn't really that's like a gross overestimation. It doesn't really take into account a number of things. It's kind of a generalization, but it's roughly correct.
Cardiff, did you just show me something exciting on that screen?
Yes,
1,000 subs. I saw that too.
Hey,
that's very exciting.
Thank you, everybody. We've been we just
ring the bell.
We closed out the founding class. That's it. The first 1,000. You guys are all in.
The founding. And again, YouTube did call me again today, just saying we have some of the best subscribers on YouTube.
I believe it.
The best.
So your parents are very dedicated to their faith, and now you're 23 years old, and you admit this to yourself.
Oh, I'm 29.
Well, no, I was talking about when you admitted this to yourself.
Right. So I grew up religious, going to church and things like this. I played Joseph like in the Christmas pageant every year for like 5 years. I was King Herod for 1 year. Till I was about.
They made you the cuck.
I know, right? They made like freaking God, like kind of a dick, but whatever. So
Old Testament God's not great.
No, New Testament God isn't really great either.
He's better than the alternative.
So anyway, when I was about 15 or 16, I was less into it when I first started high school.
Sure.
For a couple of years, and then I kind of rededicated myself around the age of 17 to it. And that started a process of, okay, I'm a Christian, but all this stuff in the Bible is horrific. So I'm gonna I'm gonna keep moving the goalposts like further and further away. Until I was about 23 when I had finally just eroded everything.
Interesting.
So what I mean by that is there will be like, for example, the Bible says that being gay is wrong. Like it's pretty clear that like being gay is a sin. Specifically having homosexual sex is a sin. Being gay in and of itself is not a sin in the Bible. So what I said to myself is, if you are born gay, that's just God telling you that you should go be like a nun or a monk or something. So you're not having sex, you're serving God.
Are you gay, Colt? Can I ask that?
No.
Okay. No, I was just curious if that was your part of your catalyst pushing you towards
or
away from the church?
The main thing was, like so many Christians, the main thing that drove me away from the church was learning about the Bible. It is very, very common on the atheism subreddit, debate atheism, that almost all of the atheist YouTubers are former Christians that have turned away from the faith because of what they learned about Christianity. Almost invariably, that's what you find on ex-Christians.
Yeah.
Is they read the Bible, they learn more about Christianity, and then they go, whoa, time out. This is not okay.
It's one of those things where it all sounds good on Sunday, right? But then kind of when you go digging, you kind of go, whoa, what is this? What is this? What is that?
Yeah, what you find is that a lot of the times is you skip. Even Christians who like read the Bible, what they do is they skip around, right? It's like you read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and you say, oh, well, I know what Sodom and Gomorrah is about because I learned about it in Sunday school and the preacher talked about it on Sunday, so I'm going to read it. But you're not reading it critically and thinking about it. You're just like reading it to reinforce what you've already heard. So when you actually sit down and read it cover to cover, every single verse, and you get to a verse like, you get to a verse that says that women aren't allowed to talk in church, like in Corinthians, you think, whoa, time out.
God's awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Could we apply that to today to like a movie theater or a restaurant, maybe? Would that?
What do you mean?
My dinner table.
Yeah,
no, my dinner table. Women aren't allowed to talk at the dinner table.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
Colt.
Obviously.
Yeah, I know. I got you.
I'm just saying that it's really interesting that those things are in that book, and the way I believe most Christians would whitewash that is those were all just traditions of the day of a culture that was different than our culture now. And the fact is, it's still written there. So it's
in my experience, most Christians will hear you say that, come up with some vague justification, and then forget about it.
Well, John 3:16. I mean,
for God so loved the world, he sent his only son to die for us.
There you go.
So
Colt, was there any particular things that you feel like may have happened or that you read that started the cracks in what you would consider your former faith?
Yeah, so I can tell you the last one very definitively.
Okay.
Are you gentlemen familiar? I assume you gentlemen are familiar with the story of Moses.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So just for anyone who's not aware, Moses was born of like a poor farmer, and he was placed in, and the Pharaoh had some sort of vision or something that he was going to be killed by a little boy under the age of 2 years old, born in this town. So the Pharaoh sent people into the town to kill all the children under 2. So his mom put him in a wicker basket, sailed him down the river, and he was found and brought to the Pharaoh's house, and then freed the Jews and ended up fulfilling the prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
a big pillar of Judaism and Christianity.
Yes, that story is from Exodus. Exodus was written somewhere around 1500 BC. There's a man named Sargon of Akkad. He was a Babylonian king. He is known by history as the first person to rule an empire. He is believed to be the first emperor in human history.
Okay.
He lived around 5000 AD. That is the story of Sargon of Akkad.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's inverted. So Sargon of Akkad was the son of a king, and he was going to kill his father. And so to protect him, his mother put him in a wicker basket and floated him down a river. He was found by a farmer and raised on the farm, and eventually made his way back to the castle where he killed his father and became the great emperor.
Well, it's kind of like the story, but it's pretty close.
It's inverted. So I found the more you look, the more you find not just page after page after page of stories that are pulled. Like one of my favorites is the Norse god Eden, spelled Idin. She rules over the garden and she rules over a garden in Valhalla, which has a tree called the Tree of Life. I think it's called the Tree of Life. I'm not 100% sure. And that tree has apples on it, and the gods eat those apples, and those apples give them immortality.
So there's also stories about great floods and things like that were in a lot of different cultures.
The Great Flood story.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can understand why that would do it for you. I would understand why that would kind of like, when you are presenting the book as every word of this is truth, when you see things like that, you have to say, okay, well, there's a problem here. A rational mind does, at least.
Yes, my favorite. Well, when you see things that are that similar, a rational mind has to say, okay, what's going on? It's interesting that these are similar. And when almost every story has some similarity to some other story from a different religious tradition, you have to think, okay, there's really something going on here. My favorite, though, like, no one can explain this, is from the story of the birth of Jesus himself. We are told in the Bible that the birth of Christ takes place during Quirinus of Syria, who is the governor of Syria under Augustus Caesar. He made a man named Quirinus governor of Syria in the year 6 AD.
Okay.
We are told that Jesus' birth takes place in Bethlehem. Joseph and Mary have to travel to Bethlehem because of the census.
Yeah.
This was the first census that takes place during Quirinus's reign as governor. It tells us this in the first 3 lines of the story. King Herod sends, later in the story, after Jesus' birth, King Herod sends soldiers into Judea to search for all the boys under the years of 2 to kill Jesus. King Herod died in the year 4 BC.
Okay.
King Herod died 10 years before Quirinus was governor of Syria. It is chronologically impossible for that story to be true.
Okay. I mean, you're not blowing my mind, because I know that, like, these things, the Bible is filled with these types of mistakes. And can I tell you, Colt, what it was for me? One of the things that really kind of changed my thinking was what I was always taught. And I've met some people who, you know what an apologist is, Colt?
I do.
Okay. For those of you who don't know what an apologist is, these are people who are religious believers, and, you know, mainly Christians are apologists, but what their job is basically is they call themselves the defenders of the faith. So these people are like professional debaters, and they will sit there and they will argue for Christianity. They would sit here with you, Cole, and argue all day. I have no desire to do that with anybody.
Yeah.
But these people feel like defending the faith is basically their mission in life. So one of the people that I met, I had an interesting conversation with. I believe his name was Dr. Mark Rathel, if I recall. And he and I were talking about it. And what he said is, one of the things that turned me off to Christianity more than anything else anyone else has ever said. And I said, well, when someone says to you, God isn't real, and how do you respond to that? And his response was, I say to them, prove that he isn't. And I say to you, prove that he is. And he says, well, I don't have to.
Right.
You're the guy whose job it is. You've devoted your entire life to this, and the only thing you're going to do is go, well, I don't have to. I mean, you're the one who's saying that he isn't real. So the burden of
that is an old staple of the apologist in general, is shifting the burden of proof. The burden of proof lies on the person who's making the claim. I am an agnostic. I'm an agnostic atheist. So what that means? So agnostic and atheist are 2 separate claims, actually, philosophically, anyway. So agnostic is a claim to knowledge. I don't know that there's no God, but I don't know that there is a God.
Sure.
Atheist is a claim to belief. I don't believe in a God. So words are descriptive. They're just made up. They can mean whatever we want them to mean. So you can believe them. You can use them however you want. But if you say you don't know that there's a God and you don't believe in God, then philosophically, you would be agnostic atheist.
An apologist wouldn't talk to you for 5 seconds. They'd have nothing to argue about. So yeah, that really bothered me. And then the other thing that I think is always interesting, and we're talking about the history and inconsistencies in history. There's a very famous scripture that gets quoted on, I believe it's 1 Timothy 3:16. Cardiff, do you know that one?
No.
All scripture was inspired by God is basically the gist of it. All scripture is inspired by God. So then you have to ask yourself the question, who decides what is scripture? Well, if all scripture is inspired by God, you would think it was God, but there was a thing called the Council of Nicaea. Am I wrong, Colt?
So the Council of Nicaea did happen in like 330 AD.
Yeah.
Where it was discussed at that point what would be orthodoxy. It is a common misconception that the Bible itself was constructed at the Council of Nicaea. The Bible as we know it today was not actually put together until much later, like 1500 AD.
Right.
But
I know
they did discuss orthodoxy. So, for example, one of the big topics of discussion was Trinitarianism versus Unitarianism.
Right.
The idea of the Holy Trinity, which is God the Father and the Holy Son, versus Unitarianism. Unitarians did not believe in this. So at the Council of Nicaea, the proto-orthodoxy, that is, people who believed what became Christian orthodoxy before that was orthodoxy, won out over the Unitarians and the others.
Sure. But what happens when they all went out? Yeah, that's exactly my point, is that they came out with, this is what the blueprint's going to be. And then everything else had to follow that after that point. So history had to be reconstructed at that point to fit the new narrative. And whenever that happens, you can't sit there and claim that the whole thing is inspired by God. And like you said, much later,
very true,
they just sat down and said, these are the books that we believe in for our faith. So this is scripture. And then this scripture proves that everything we just decided on was scripture is correct. And they used one scripture to try to validate, 60 some odd books that they compiled together to make one volume, or to make the two volumes,
63.
the Old and New Testament. 63
I believe it's 63.
Yeah. It's pretty wild when you think about that. Like
one of my favorite so this is a great one. So the 1 John 5:7 states that this is from the King James version of the New Testament. This is the 1 John 5:7. For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one. This is the Christian justification for the idea of the Holy Trinity. Mm-hmm. That verse does not appear in later editions of the Bible. So later translations of the Bible, the New King James Version, for example, it doesn't exist. That verse doesn't exist in the original Greek manuscripts that we have of the Bible.
TK44 is right, Cole. We don't call him King James. We call him King Jimbo on this show, just so you know.
Oh, the King Jimbo version of the Bible. My apologies.
Thank you much.
So there is a movement, a Christian movement that is the King James or King Jimbo version only. So these are people who only read the King James version of the Bible.
Those are some hip people. They are very cool guys.
Yes, one of their justifications is we only read the King James version of the Bible because it's the only one that talks about the Holy Trinity. We know the Holy Trinity is true, so therefore the King James version of the Bible is the only one that's true, which is deliciously secular.
Spin me right round, baby, right round.
Yeah, Flo Rida would be so happy.
I've got a question for you, Colt. I've been quiet for far too long. Vinny's staring at me. So you have an insane amount of knowledge here. You're probably the most learned guest we've had on this show, and we've had.
Oh, I don't know that much actually. I mean, but
we've had Benny. So
we had a kid who understood exactly how socialism can work.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
But you
love those guys.
You've done a lot of reading. You know a lot about this topic. But I guess my question is, what's your goal? What's your end game to study that? Like, you have a very aggressive thirst for knowledge here of something that you don't believe in. Right? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. So a Christian apologist might say, "Why do you care so much about something you don't believe in?"
I got you there, Cardiff. I heard you say it. He got you there. He got you there, Mr. Electric.
That's a totally valid question. One reason is because Christianity is toxic. Like Christian beliefs are toxic. So if you like, just think, for example, about some of the more toxic like guys like Andrew Tate and things who believe that women aren't equal. Christianity teaches that women aren't equal. First Corinthians tells us that women are not allowed to speak in church. If a woman has a question, she should wait till she is at home and ask her husband. The Bible tells us that woman should be subservient to man as man is subservient to Jesus. The Bible tells us that men are the spiritual leaders of the house, and that women are not to be given like spiritual authority. The Bible tells us that if a man rapes a woman, this is in the Old Testament, if a man rapes the woman, she is to be married to him, and his punishment is that he can never divorce her.
That'll teach him.
The Old Testament says that if a man has sex with his wife on their wedding night and is not pleased with her, he can drag her in front of her father. And if the father cannot provide proof that she is a virgin, the woman is to be stoned to death. But if the father can provide proof that she is a virgin, the man is to be fined.
What does he have to show him? Like a pristine punch
The bloody
card?
sheets. He has to show the bloody sheets from her first period.
Okay,
if you can't produce those, the woman is stoned to death and killed.
Where do you keep those in your house back then, you think?
You keep a box. There's a box reserved.
Would you keep that with like the social, where you keep like the social security cards and everything now?
Yes.
Like in a little safe?
Something like that. Well, women would generally be married off as soon as you would have your first period and were able to bear children. They would immediately marry you off.
And I don't think that's necessarily just religion, but that was, I think, maybe some of the times too. But so you have a strong feeling that the more people that believe in Christianity, it's bad for society. That's kind of where you're.
So think about this for a second. Most Christians would say that they are anti-abortion, which is great. However, what we find is that the most Christian states have the highest rates of unwanted pregnancy and therefore abortion. So why is that? Well, it's because Christian states like Alabama, for example, push abstinence-only sex education because they believe that sex before marriage is wrong. So you push abstinence-only sex education, but that doesn't stop people from having sex. So you end up with a lot of unwanted pregnancy and abortions. So what we actually find is that states like Maine that have comprehensive sex education have lower rates of abortion and unwanted pregnancy. So logically speaking, if you push comprehensive sex education, you have less abortions. But this is not happening for whatever reason. It's like this thing that would benefit society. Just there's no doubt that less pregnancy and less unwanted pregnancy would benefit society, but it's not happening because of Christian belief.
So
now I can't disagree with that.
Now, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I thought we had separation of church and state. What went wrong?
So the separation of church and state is not actually in the Constitution.
As I said, I'm not a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. It doesn't say that in the Constitution. The only thing the Constitution says is in the first amendment to the Constitution, the freedom of religion. It states that the Congress shall make no law stating that there is a state religion. However, the Christian and evangelical right loves to tell you that the America is a Christian nation, and we were founded on Christian values, and we should follow those Christian values as much as you listen to them.
I may have heard that once or twice from some people.
Have you? I'm shocked.
Might have heard that once or twice.
Yeah.
Colt, let me ask you this. Is there anything that you've taken away from Christianity that you feel has been beneficial or helpful to your life? Is there any type of lesson or anything in the Bible that you feel is actually redeeming to society?
Oh, sure. There's lots of good stuff in the Bible. I mean, there's lots of good stuff in all religions. like society is not formed around like religion, right? Religion is formed around the society. So there's lots of wisdom in the Bible. Things like treat others the way you want to be treated. That's a good one. Like when it discusses the importance of forgiveness, like when people have wronged you, you forgive them and you just feel better. Like there's lots of wisdom in the Bible. But just because there's wisdom in the Bible doesn't mean that it's from God. It just means that
well,
it just means that it's observations. Like old wives' tales are not passed down from God. They're just good observations. And
good point.
Yeah.
I like to look at the Bible very simply. I like to take the good and take the bad.
Take them
and
both.
Then you take them both. And there you have the facts of life.
Right.
Because I do think that in terms of there being redeeming content to the Bible, there definitely is.
Yeah, for sure.
There certainly is. And if you argue that there wasn't, I think that would be a disingenuous argument.
It absolutely would be. It would be intellectually dishonest, I think.
I think if people really, maybe if the problem religion's having is that they're selling it as we have all the answers, instead of, hey, this is a good general rule to follow for life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a great! I'm sorry. Go ahead, Colt.
I was gonna say a lot of Christians will. I mean, if Christians want to do that, if they want to say, oh well, I'm gonna stick to the good parts where it's like turn the other cheek and that kind of thing, and we're gonna ignore the things where it says women are second-class citizens. That's fine. And I have no problem with that. But when society and law is being like built upon like these like principles that were like horrendous thousands of years ago, it's wrong. I mean, during the early 1800s, the Bible was used in the South as a justification for slavery because it clearly supports slavery.
Yeah, the Apostle Paul told a slave to go back to his master in the New Testament. Was it Timothy? Might have been Timothy. It was one of the people who wrote one of the books, or it was a letter to that person.
So that's in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, it actually gives you rules and regulations on how you are to treat your slaves. Although I should mention that the Old Testament has two types of slavery. There's slavery of your fellow Hebrews, like the members of your fellow nation. That is more indentured servitude, and then there's actual slavery. So that is reserved for people outside of your nation.
Yeah.
So if we were still following the rules of the Bible, I could enslave a Canadian.
Look out,
not
Minnesota!
Necessarily a bad thing.
Look out, Minnesota! Hey, here's a great comment. I'm sorry to interrupt this thought, but it's along the same lines here. This came in from Ross Dog's Broken Spirit, and it's kind of a sarcastic comment, but he makes a good point. Soviet Russia did very well without religion. What about these societies that have just eliminated religion from like all aspects of it? Do you think they're better off for that?
Not necessarily. So one of the things that people who leave religion will struggle with is when you're a Christian, when you're a Christian, you're created by God, like the creator of the universe personally formed you from dust and loves you. When you're an atheist, like I for example am a nihilist, so I don't believe that there's actual.
Are you really?
I'm a nihilist, so I don't believe that there's inherent intrinsic value in anything. So as far as I'm concerned, we're all just specks of cosmic dust floating on a giant cosmic rock spinning around a star.
You may be right, but I don't think I have the capacity in my brain to comprehend that.
Right. So a lot of people who leave faith will, you look on speaking of subreddit surfing, you should go on r/existentialism. Like every other post is somebody who says, okay, I'm an existentialist, I'm a nihilist, like nothing is true, I'm depressed, help me. So it's very true that religion provides like a lot of comfort to people. And it's also very true that religion does a really good job of like binding a society together. So when everyone in your society believes the same thing, then everybody's happy. You know, like if the three of us were on a desert island and one of us believes that stealing is allowed, like you should be allowed to steal, and the other two don't, how long is it going to take for us to split off into two separate societies? Not very long, right?
Well, I think it would end up being just you and me because I'm going to eat the potato.
Well, there you go. That's true.
Vinny.
But anyway, like that's kind of what religion can do is it can bind people together through like everybody has the same beliefs, everybody's a Christian, and that can like keep your society together. So when that goes away, that can cause a problem.
Colt, we've talked about a lot of different things today, but I want to talk about you again for a second, if it's all right. I want to take this back to you're 23 years old. You've come to this conclusion that you do not believe in a God. You do not believe in the faith of your parents. Did you have to have a conversation with them about this? And how, if so, how did that go?
Oh, they don't know. I haven't told them.
Really?
Yeah. So, the only person who knows is the only person who in my family who knows I'm an atheist is my sister because she is also an atheist.
So like, how do you guys handle that? Do you have to go to church with them on holidays and stuff?
Oh, thankfully they are my parents are a really great contradiction. So they're highly religious, but they don't really go to church. So I actually played in a so we went to church. I went to church for several years when I didn't really believe. I just like
went through the motions.
Yeah, basically. My sister has been to church recently with my mom. They went to like my grandma's church because she died not too long ago. So they were like, "Oh, let's go to grandma's church," and it was nice. But we don't really go to church, and thankfully we're both adults, so it's okay. My dad goes to church every week. He goes to church regularly, but my mom doesn't, and it's just not really talked about. So I think that like it's a thing where like your parents probably they probably think I still believe in God until such time as I like tell them, hey, I don't believe in God and I have no plans on doing that. Because it's a fight not worth having.
Sure.
You know, I'm in a I guess I'd say a similar position. I'm a little older than you, Colt, but I've not had the conversation. I think my parents still believe I go to church every Sunday. But I don't think I've been even on Christmas in many years. But for me, it's not the fight I'm trying to avoid, or it's actually, I believe, you know, my mother, my father, they're so religious, they're so deep, like this would hurt them. Like this would be like they've gone wrong, they've done something wrong. They're going to be scared for my soul, right? If they knew
it's just it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not. I'll let them believe I'm still, you know, like them, right? But
and I can relate to that too. My mom is 76 years old, and the thought of her baby boy going to hell might be a little too much for her to handle.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a heavy aspect to this.
It is, yeah. So if you go on the r/atheism subreddit, the FAQ, like at the very top, it just straight up says, "Don't tell your parents unless you're willing to be kicked out of the house." What it actually says is the best time to tell your parents is when you're living in a house you've paid for, eating a meal you've paid for with a job, like when you're financially independent. Because there are story after story after story of, "Hey, I told my parents that I was an atheist and they kicked me out of the house."
Very Christ-like.
Yeah, it's very. It is. I don't want to. I don't want to compare it to like being gay or other forms of persecution or anything like that because I have no experience with those things. But like you look at it and you say, okay, so like you've seen people who come out to their parents as gay and they get kicked out of the house. You see people who come out as atheists to their parents and they get kicked out of the house. And mostly it's Christians doing this. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. Did you guys like skip the part of the book where Jesus said, be nice to people, or what?
You got to believe what you believe. That's the rules.
Yeah.
Colt, I got to thank you so much for your time this afternoon, this evening. Is there anything we could plug for you? Do you have anything going on, any shows or anything like that? Twitter or anything?
No. So all I want to say at the end here is that the only thing that all atheists have in common is that we do not believe in God. So listening to me talk and thinking all atheists are like me is silly. Not all all atheism is just a lack of belief in God. So you can be religious and atheist. You can be Buddhist, for example. Buddhism doesn't have a God. There are Buddhist atheists. You can be an atheist nihilist. You can be an atheist solipsist. You can. So all we have in common with one another is that we don't believe in God. So
and yes, I don't want anyone to think that we bring our guests on and we expect you have the ultimate opinion on everybody in this subreddit or in this community. It's we like to get a variety of opinions. A lot of people coming on just to talk, kind of share their point of view. But as we talked about earlier, again in this subreddit, people are very apprehensive to come on and tell a story and talk.
Yeah,
they felt they were being catfished into something or
even if you guys had been proselytizing, I was prepared for that as well. So
no.
Yeah.
That's next week's show. Please come back.
That's next week's show. Oh, well, maybe I'll come back.
Colt, final question for you before you go. Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? I'm just curious.
I did actually when I was 14, and I think I'm still covered. If I went back, I'm still good. So yeah.
Once God's got paperwork on you.
Yeah, your paperwork's all in order.
Yeah, it's like being a U.S. citizen. As long as you don't renounce it, you can go back.
Did you pay for the extended warranty?
I did. Yeah.
I hope you got the true coat.
Yeah.
Colt, thank you so much, my man, and best of luck to you and all of your future endeavors, sir.
Oh well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Colt.
Thank you. Hey, who do I see looking here in the waiting room, Cardiff?
Well, it's funny. We had if you are one of the many, many smart people that are a member of my Patreon, Vinnie, patreon.com/Cardiff Electric, I had a special Zoom call today with a bunch of my patrons, and we had a quick chat and quick discussion. And as a treat to those who attended the call, I kind of gave a sneak peek at what we were going to be talking about on today's subreddit surfing.
Oh, cool.
And one of my patrons that was on that call, who is in the waiting room right now, expressed some interest in the topic and has a bit of a story to tell in regards to atheism as well.
Is this the real person? Is this
This
really
is the real person as far as I know, and I know you're excited to meet the great Cranberry Electric.
Oi! Let's do it.
So let's bring him on. He's excited to meet you. He may be making his entire story up just to talk to you, Vinny, but
what's up, Cranberry?
Welcome to the show.
What can I call you? Do you want to be Cranberry Electric? What would you like me to call you this evening?
Call me Cranberry, whatever you want.
All right,
Paulino, you handsome fella. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. You're a gentleman, sir.
He's also visually impaired.
Sweet talk will get you everywhere, Cran. So welcome to subreddit surfing. It's really nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
What would you like to talk about?
I mean, well, so I was born a heathen. And now talking about atheism is a little bit dodgy for me because I am Archbishop of the Church Electric.
Yeah.
So, but in the
I knew you to be a man of faith.
Yeah, well, it's like everybody knows me. I'm reformed, as it were. But there was a period of time when I was very much a God hater.
And an internet hater.
Yes.
And an internet hater, clearly.
Yes, you're very choppy. You're very choppy.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay,
we hear you now, Cranberry.
Yeah, you seem good now.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Just get it out there.
Cool.
Go for it.
So back in the 2010s, you remember the internet? I effing love science, all of that stuff. I did like science. I also liked Doug Stowe, and he loved a bit of atheism. So I kind of got dragged into it that way. Got into like YouTubers like Thunderfoot, the Skeptics, like Rebecca Watson, and I learned a lot of stuff. But I did find atheism to be a little bit of a religion in and of itself.
It is.
If you notice,
that's a very astute observation.
Atheists, I mean, they live by a rule, don't they? Don't believe in God. and they're all very knowledgeable on the subject. I read books. I read God Delusion. I read a bit of Sam Harris. But it gets all very religious. And I think it was about 2013 they came out with Atheism Plus. Did you ever hear about this?
I've not heard about that one.
Atheism Plus was when they started adding loads of different bits onto atheism. So
it sounds like an atheism streaming service.
I'm sure that's coming soon on Discovery.
Yeah.
But what they started doing is, okay, well, you can't not just believe in God now. You have to not believe in God and not be homophobic, not be transphobic. Like, this was the start. I hate to say it, but this was like when wokeism.
I could see atheism being a pillar of wokeism.
Yeah, because there were factors of atheism that were getting criticized for being like Islamophobic, stuff like that. It was all very a weird time to consider yourself an atheist.
You know, you're not wrong at all about it being a religion. I spent a lot of time looking at this subreddit today, and one of the things that I noticed is these people are all very smug in their opinions. And it does just feel like the other side of the coin to smug Christianity. It really does.
Yeah, it like you said, it's almost, there's as much anti-faith on this side as there would, you'd have to have faith on the other side. Yeah, exactly. It's just another belief system, but it's a belief in no belief.
I'm not a big fan of taking a belief system like that and making it kind of your identity. Like when you meet like some Christians who are like super out Christians, there are also super as out atheists. You know what I mean? Like, there really is the same intensity on both sides. And I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's a very solid point. Now
on that note, though, I've never walked by a bus stop and seen a bunch of atheists standing there with flyers trying to recruit me. But I have seen Scientologists.
That's true. That's true. And when it comes to Scientology, God, I am an atheist. Whatever that is. I'm definitely an atheist in that one. But the proselytizing part of it is a 2.6 million person subreddit page, Cardiff. Yeah. This is how they recruit people. It's 2.8 million people on this thing.
That is very true. Do you want to take a look at some stuff on the page, Vinny?
Absolutely. You going to stick with us for a while, Cran? If you're still there?
Oh, I don't think he's still there.
All right. I think he either died or is frozen in time.
Or God has smote him.
Uh-oh.
Yes, he should.
Shouldn't have had such strong opinions. Oi, oi, Cran.
Oi, oi.
We'll see you around, pal. All right. So I went on this page today, and I found that fact page that we were talking about. Should I tell my parents that should you come out as an atheist to my parents? Hey, Cran, you're back. So this is what they said about this, and Colt brought it up earlier. They said, this page is meant to help younger atheists who might be considering coming out or already have come out to their parents. The slightly longer answer is that if you are not in a position where there is likely to end well for you, you should probably wait until you are more self-sufficient. However, you know your parents better than we do. We could try breaking the ice on the subject of atheism to get their reaction in general. If you're not sure, keep in mind they could throw you out. This is the advice that they're giving people. I mean, there's apparently very, very strong reactions going on inside of people's houses to this.
Yeah, like I said, in mine, I know it would be, again, it wouldn't be anger and get out of the house when I was a kid, but it would have been real fear and heartbreak. Like, it would have been awful. My mother would have thought that was the worst thing she could have done. But I can see it, yeah, definitely in some other communities, some other households where, yeah, it's like, well, it's, you either believe what we believe or, yeah, get the fuck out. You're not part of this family anymore.
So, Cardiff, the way we've been breaking these stories down is by like the top stories of the week and the month and everything like that. Do you have any of those pulled up right now?
Yeah, I've got a couple here. Hold on. So speaking of, this is Scientology. This was a very common one, so I think this was their top post for the month.
Okay.
And again,
this is actually a fantastic story.
Yes, it is. And I think Scientology, through a lot of the posts on here, became has grown as the whipping boy, so to speak. It's taken maybe the throne away from Christianity, and has become the shining example of why atheism needs to be a thing.
Of the American religions, Scientology is probably the second most popular. Yeah. Like the American born religions.
So you're thinking Mormon first?
Yeah. Well, Mormon is probably the biggest. Yeah. And then it's got to be Scientology. Yeah.
Heaven's Gate was the most exciting.
Heaven's Gate was the most fun. They got those cool uniforms.
They went out of business, didn't they?
Unfortunately, they had to close the doors. Their website is still up. Somebody told me not too long ago.
If they just waited till Reddit was around, they would have been huge by now.
Oh my God. If only that weird dude had held out. If only Marshall Applewhite had held out till Reddit was invented.
Do you remember the Saturday Night Live skits on that?
Barely.
The Nikes. Oh, it was, they had fun with that. But anyway, Scientology's leader, David Miscavige, goes missing as lawyers try to serve him with human trafficking suit. The suit is brought by 3 former members of Scientology's Sea Org. Now, have you done any deep dives into Scientology?
I know quite a bit about Scientology and Sea Org. Sea Org is a branch, like, I guess the way it's been described is all the celebrities that that are involved in Scientology, they go hang out at like the Celebrity Center, and that's like the real popular aspect of it. The real Scientologists, like the real everyday people who join Scientology, end up in this bullshit Sea Org. They sign a billion-year contract to their fucking souls to Scientology, and they have to do manual labor for the rest of their lives while they work on their personalities, I guess. But Sea Org is like the lower. Somehow it's a very high level, but it's also a very low level within the organization.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just I think this is what this would be the, people would point fingers at the Catholic Church with some things that have gone on there, but this would be like if the Pope was directly, had his finger on the gun.
Well, right? In this particular scenario, this would be like the Pope, like people are trying to sue the Pope, and the Pope is like hiding out at his buddies' houses, trying not to get served. That's what's happening here.
As the first post here is an interesting way of spelling hiding in a location where extradition is not possible. So yeah, this guy's
he's on the lam. Yeah. He's on the lam. And apparently people have been accusing him of like violence for a very, very long time. Like supposedly this guy Miscavige is a real hothead.
Yeah, I remember the what was it? Leah Remini had a she did a whole series on some of the things that were going on with Scientology, kind of opening up, speaking up against it. But yeah, I think it's for the atheist world, this is the fuel they need, again, to help kind of drive their point home.
Well, I kind of feel like Scientology and like Christianity are two very, very different things, because Scientology, there's really not a belief in a God. It's all about your own self-improvement, and it's all about like your own mind over your own body, and like you're all like some kind of celestial level or some bullshit. If I understand it.
Yeah, isn't there some type of intelligent design being involved in this too?
There's aliens.
It's aliens, okay.
Yeah, kind of.
I don't know what the problem is, because the girls that hand out the tickets for the free movies are always hot.
Yeah. Dude, years and years ago, they came up with a really brilliant strategy when they got John Travolta and they had their first big celebrity. They're like, we need more of these. So when you go to LA, my buddy Tommy Bechtold lives out there. He's in a million fucking things. And he told me his first day, he went down to Central Casting just to like get his stuff in there so he can, get a lay of the land. The first people he met were Scientologists pretending to be working for talent managers and talent scouts and giving him flyers to come to this event to learn how to get a manager. Well, you know how you get a manager?
Become
Scientology.
Scientologist.
It's like they're just like, we can't trust celebrities to want to join us when they're already up here. We got to get these people when they're down here.
Get them on the ground floor.
Get them on the ground floor. And that's what they've been doing for decades now. And celebrities and their money are really what fund it, the whole fucking thing.
I remember the downtown where I grew up. You'd walk downtown. They had a big storefront, right? Right on Main Street. The Dianetics books in the window. There are always the people on the street trying to get you to come inside and do your the personality test.
I've seen them in this. I've seen them down in New York. Levels. I've never seen them where I live, but I've seen them down in the city, and they are always offering personality tests.
Yeah, that's it. The personality tests.
Yeah.
I
failed. I already know the answer. You could skip me. It's not a good one. I failed.
I always wish I did it though. I was skeptical enough to just say, even as a 15, 16 years old, to say, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with this. But me looking back now, I wish I did it just to see what's the sell job? What's the how do they hook people in?
Cardiff,
There's
I know that you're
Cardiff. Get down there, get it done.
I would say don't. Here's why I would say don't do that. And I feel terrible for Mormon missionaries.
Why?
I feel bad for these people who are out proselytizing because they're being forced to by their faith. And I almost feel like Scientologists are kind of forced to go out there and do that stuff the same way that Mormons are. ABR, always be recruiting. They push these people out there. It's like part of your faith. Christians do it too. They say that the great directive of Christ, go out into all the world and preach the gospel. That's what supposedly your mission by God is, to go out there and convert more people to this way of thinking and bring more people into the church. I feel bad for Mormons in particular because they make all the teenagers in the church, when they get to a certain age, do like a 2-year mission where they just get sent somewhere and they have to go knock on goddamn doors a million miles away from their house to tell everybody about, if there's any Mormons out there, forgive me, a load of horse shit. They got to go and shovel it all around the goddamn world, or they're going to Mormon hell. You know what I mean? I don't feel good about that.
You think
So hassling those guys, I feel terrible about. I'd much better off just say thanks, but no thanks, and move on.
I wouldn't even say hassling. Just I want to know I want to see how they're trying to sell this, how they're trying to loop people in. What's
curiosity.
Sure. Not to fuck with them. Give them just as an education.
You
Same reason we're doing this show,
it.
Vinny. Same reason we're doing this show. I just like to learn, like to explore.
Jehovah's Witnesses too. And I don't even understand a rebel. Jehovah's Witnesses go door to door too. Correct. And for the life of me, I do not understand what that religion is about. There's supposedly only X amount of spots in heaven, but yet they're knocking on everybody's door trying to get more people to sign up.
But the more people they sign up, the higher up they go on the ranking, I think. So
is that how that works?
I think so. I think the more you save, the more you.
It's a leaderboard.
Yeah, it's an MLM.
Okay. Multi-level marketing. Perfect.
You got to bring people in.
We get to the pearly gates. It's like, how many sets of Tupperware did you sell?
I gotta say, they have a lot of Jehovah's Witness. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have a lot of buildings around here, and they're huge.
In Minnesota?
Yes.
Okay.
They're very big here.
So I feel bad for those people, and hassling them, I feel kind of bad. One of the greatest pranks when I was in college that people used to play was we would just call and order someone the Book of Mormon.
It's a great show.
Well, no. We would order them an actual Book of Mormon from the Church of Latter-day Saints. And you know what happens when you order it?
Comes with a visit.
Listen, the Mormons save a lot of money on postage because they hand deliver those sons of bitches. They hand deliver you that book, and they're like, "Here you go, Saturday morning, and I'm standing at your dorm. You're interested in Mormonism? Let's talk for an hour."
Another
I get
funny
why you
thing.
feel sorry for him. Sorry, go on, Cardiff.
You don't get why I feel sorry for him?
I get why you feel sorry for him, but you got to remember, some people just want to be led. They just want to be told what to do and be led through life and be happy. And apparently, statistically, religious people live longer than atheists. So maybe that's if we want to live a healthy life, just do as you're told.
Maybe it's because atheists tend to be more negs. You know what I mean?
That too, yeah.
Yeah, they're just negative people, and that, takes a toll on your disposition in general, I would say.
But it's funny. I remember as a kid, my again, as I said, both my parents were very religious, but my mother, again, I'd say my mother would be the more blind religious, like just nothing the church says is wrong. It's the way that's all it is. Yeah. My dad maybe is a little more relaxed on it, but my dad likes to talk, loves to talk. So doorbell rings Saturday morning. It's Jehovah's Witness. He'll sit out there for an hour just chatting. He not a problem at all. And I do remember one time my mother coming home and my dad sitting on the porch talking to a Jehovah's Witness, and she lost her shit chasing them off the porch. She was tearing up. But again, she's a very religious person, but it's only mine, right? Mine is the only one. And if you even try, there was an anger there that somebody was on her porch trying to preach anything other than what she's, anything other than her way. It was just it's a funny it's memory you just brought up. Yeah,
it's a strange mentality right there, but it's a very prevalent one in religion where defending the faith is a big deal, man. Defending the faith. Cardiff, some of the strange memories I have from this. I told you my father had a really bad accident when I was young, and there's a preacher out of Fort Worth, Texas. A lot of people may know him. He's gone quite viral during COVID because he's a dumb asshole. His name is Kenneth Copeland, and you guys could Google him if you'd like to. You'll have a real fun time with that. But my mom used to, my father was almost a vegetable, dude. Like, he was really fucked up from this accident. And my mother would play videotapes of this guy and his wife preaching and just talking for hours, just on in my living room all the time for my childhood. And I was just listening to this stuff because all they did was preach about healing and how God doesn't want you to be sick and how, if you have faith enough, you'll get healed. My mother got my father together many years and made us fly to Fort Worth, Texas to go to this guy's believers conventions so that they could pray for him and put their hands on him to heal him.
Did it work?
No, he dropped dead in 2003.
Oh, sorry.
And to me, that's probably the day where any faith I had in anything kind of disappeared, because I spent my entire childhood being told that this is a matter of fact and that faith is a real thing. And that if you believe this and you stick to this, this works. And but here's what I'm trying to get to a point here. Forgive me. I was trying to get back to your mom. This idea, this concept that you have to hold on to this faith with two hands as tight as you possibly can is what I think drives people to that mentality of, if they hear something that is slightly different with what they believe, they have to get that doubt out of there because they have to hold on as tight as they can. They can't let anything confuse what they are choosing to believe in.
But it's funny that's you have to have this faith. You have to believe it. That this is the way. The healer would say, yeah, this is how we're gonna fix your dad. This is how we're gonna pray hard and we're gonna help him. But if it doesn't work, it's God had another plan, right? So there's always an out.
I've never met the devil, Mikey, but I have met Ken Copeland, and those dudes' eyes are, man, it's funny that you say that. It's hard to look that man in the eyes, Mikey. You're not wrong. You are not wrong at all. But I watch, and here's the thing. Even with Scientology, we joked about how it was somebody posted about how Scientology is all about the money. So is this stuff. And when this guy had believers conventions, Cardiff, what he would do is he would team up with a bunch of other like ministers. They called it the word of faith. Mm-hmm. Everything was about faith, and you have to believe. And if you believe, then you will receive. This is what they would preach. If you believe, you will receive.
So if you don't receive, it's your fault, right?
Bingo. So again, the mentality is hold on as tight as you can with two hands and don't let go, because the second you do, then it's your fault that it didn't work.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
If you put yourself in little doughy Vinny's position as a kid who has no other frame of reference to how the world works, this stuff will do a mind job on you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think there's enough of this. Again, I can see the what a lot of what we read in the atheism subreddit, where there's enough of this that pushed people away from any type of organized religion and believing in any type of God. But I think I write a lot of this off to this is just human garbage. There's bad people in everything, right? Like, I don't think it necessarily disproves that there's no God or no religion, but I don't think it proves, obviously these guys don't prove it either.
The prosperity gospel is not proper teaching. You don't say, Pork Boy 23. You don't say. Couldn't agree more. Another point here. To be fair, Vinny's experiences come from the extreme aspect of Christianity. 1000%.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a true story. My wife goes to church just about every Sunday, and she goes to a very chill church. I don't go. I have no desire to go. I don't want to go. I have PTSD when I walk into churches now. People always wonder on the creep off why I'm always so hard about preachers and religion. Now kids. I just get very upset at this stuff, because one of the things that I saw at these believers conventions that really blew my mind, guys, is there's another preacher, and you Google him if you can, Creflo Dollar. Creflo A. Dollar Jr. Dude's last name was Dollar, Cardiff. That's him. This guy, I would say, this is true. The Tarrant County Convention Center in Fort Worth, Texas is like a little arena, and they rented out this arena to have these big giant things, and they would give blocks of the day, like a convention, to all these different preachers, and they'd all come up and do their thing. Mm-hmm. This guy puts on a show, Cardiff. At the end of his set, I'll call it, because I'm from the stand-up comedy world. Mm-hmm. By the end of his set, he would stand at the top of these stairs with this blue carpet on it, and people would be walking up and dropping cash and checks at his feet. I swear to you, I have never seen anything like it since or ever again. This man would do this thing, and he would, by the end of it, he had people who had been giving. They took an offering at every one of these services. They were passing a plate. They would do it in the morning. They would do it in the afternoon. They were it's free admission, but you got to give. And this guy would stand there, and they would already do the offering, and people were still just pouring buckets of money onto these folks. And I have to ask you, wouldn't you want that job?
Well, it just made me think. I noticed this guy has a YouTube channel. Can you imagine the super chats that he's running through on his YouTube channel?
This guy, dude, was having church. He has a church in Atlanta, Georgia, if I recall, is where he was out of. And he was renting out Madison Square Garden and having churches inside of the garden. I'm pretty positive that he was doing both. And he was flying in a private jet between Atlanta and New York City and doing 2 church services. This guy, multi-cajillionaire.
391,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Okay.
Wow.
Could you do me a favor and look up his net worth? So, my experience is very different than a lot of people's. I look at my mom and I look at the situation with my dad, and I almost feel like they were victims to these people.
$27 million, Vinny.
Some man of God. Hallelujah.
$27 million. And
now here's a fun fact. Fun fact, folks.
Ooh, I love fun
We
facts.
love those, right, Cardiff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Everyone loves a fun fact.
There it is. Ready, Cran? And I'm actually, somebody just beat me to it in the chat. Da 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 da! All tax free. This money, we're not just talking about this $27 million is like his money. All the money that this church brings in, this guy has access to. Like Ken Copeland lives in a giant mansion, but the church owns it.
Isn't it supposed to be
a
God's
parsonage.
money? Isn't it supposed to be God's money, Vinny? What does God need money for, by the way?
God doesn't want you. That was George Carlin's bit.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
Sorry.
George. Oh, God.
Sorry,
what
George.
was it? George had the best bit about it. He's like, let me tell you something about God. He made the heavens and the earth, and he only needs a couple of bucks to get by.
It's not usual for Cardiff to steal someone else's bet.
I know. I don't want to crash your faith in him.
Generally, no.
Even God needs super chats. But like these guys right here have found a way to, kind of what Colt was talking about earlier, is take scripture and make it work for them. And that's also part of the danger of religion, is when you take a book that's as big as the Bible, that really, who really wants to read it? It's not exactly a page turner. So
apparently atheists read the Bible more than Christians do.
we might have learned that tonight, folks. Yeah. We may have learned that. But what happens is you could take a book, right? And you could say, well, look at Corinthians 4:17, and then go over here and look at Jeremiah 6:24. These two things have a similar thing, so this matches this thing, and this must mean this. And that's what these guys do. You could take a giant book and you can make it say anything you want. And that's where this word of faith, this prosperity gospel and stuff came from. And man, when my dad died, I was just like, I watched my mom take care of this guy for, 20 years.
Wow.
That he had this accident. She was there with him. I mean, the guy couldn't walk. The guy couldn't talk. The guy couldn't do anything. And she took such good care of him through all of that. And then when he died, I looked at her like, Mom, I'm sorry it didn't work, but I don't think that ever dawned on her. To her, it was, he's finally with Jesus.
Yeah. And that's
to me, that was a beautiful thing.
That is a nice way to look at it.
It was a beautiful thing because she had that kind of faith, not the faith that I had that just went, fuck this shit. So in a way, that's why I don't have the anger that a lot of these atheists have. But there's no way I'm on the faith train.
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, this topic has so many what's the word I'm looking for? Different angles to look at it, right? Like it's you want that religion there for that comfort, for that, there's something after this, that's not just nothing. Which
I'm going to tell you something right now. And I'm sure that anybody who's listening to this stream right now, they grew up in a religious household. If you're on a plane and the thing starts heading towards the ground, the first thing you're doing is praying.
Yeah. I think
so. Are we all just hypocrites inside? I don't know.
Probably. I think we all hope deep down that, I can talk the big talk, but I hope someone's there. Hope someone's there to catch me afterwards. I hope there's a place for me to go, right?
Okay, Cardiff, this is the note for next week.
Yes. I agree.
I mean, look, you've picked atheism, but we're still talking about religion, aren't we? Because all these crazy preachers, they're way more fun. Name a fun atheist.
Cranberry Electric.
Yes. The funnest.
Archbishop of the Church Electric.
Yeah.
Even I've given it up. It's no fun.
Hey, listen, I want to get in on that church. Who do I need to send the tithe to? You know what? You're right. We did kind of get back onto this track of like, talking about religion and maybe not so much atheism. So, Cardiff, let's get back on the topic and let's check out some more of these stories from this page, shall we?
So again, and this is one of the more, this is another one of the top posts for the month. And again, this is more, as you said earlier, political, a lot of political posts. So again, people using religion to move an agenda forward, and atheists challenging it because they're using the religion to move a movement forward, right?
Cran is 100% on the money when he said that, atheism is its own like belief system, because I really do feel like Christianity has found a way to weave itself into politics, and I feel like atheism has done the exact same thing. It's like point versus counterpoint, counterbalances to each other, and they both like take on the same nature to kind of balance each other out. But there's a lot of politics on this page.
Yeah, and it's always left leaning, right? Like it's always taking on the Republicans, who are the religious right, and the ones that are shoving this down everyone's throat, and they're here defending it. But again, yeah, Republicans demand stronger laws to stop women from leaving the state to get abortion. So again, I think Colt, mentioned this too. Like the abortion issue was a big one for a lot of atheists, and how it was a religious excuse, a religious reason why we shouldn't have it. But.
So this is a lot of people are very uptight about the over Roe versus Wade being overturned, and there's a lot of posts about that. I like Florentine's got a new bit about it. He's like, it's not like they completely banned abortion. Like you just have to go to a different state. Like if I was really mad and wanted to kill somebody, I wouldn't mind going to Pennsylvania.
That's it.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
But again, now some Republicans are trying to stop that. So another one here in honor of today. So again, this is from 8 months ago. So I believe this is the top post of the year on this subreddit. So in honor of today's Supreme Court ruling, I just want to say fuck Christianity. So again, there's a very angry response to what they're seeing as a Christian inserting themselves into the laws of the land, right?
Well, it was.
Yes.
I mean, it really was. So I can understand why this would be like poking a hornet's nest to these folks. But again, to Cran's point, there have been plenty of laws that have been enacted to protect people from religion as well. Like the laws go both ways. Like there's the atheists that push laws too. So,
and I don't think, and not to go off on the abortion, I don't think it's strictly a Christian. It's just a Christian kind of people that are against it. I think it's a little more complex than that. But yeah, definitely, I would say the majority of them opposing it are for religious reasons, for sure.
Yeah, I think that religion is going to come into play to anyone's political structure, political affiliations to an extent. If you really are a true believer in something, I do think that does influence how you would think about politics. But in the reality, I don't think that we need to be making laws, hot take here, based off a 2,000-year-old book past the ones we've already made. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. I'm good with those two.
And it's funny, we had, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's always, okay, in state and federal politics, there's things that those politicians are going to have to vote on that can interchange with religion, right? There's abortion issues. There's a whole bunch of legal things that could interact with your religious beliefs, and you could influence your voting. But when you look at someone like running for mayor, we always had a guy here, or there was always one or two candidates who would be the quote unquote Christian candidate for running for mayor or running for town council. And I always found those to be funny. I'm like, isn't your job like picking up the garbage, sweeping the streets? Like
it's a dog whistle, Cardiff.
I guess, yeah. It's like you're Christian, vote for me. But still, it should be that's the least likely place you want to see any of that, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I kind of like, I don't get upset about this, but it's people use Jesus to market, bro. They use Jesus to market all the time.
Look at Creflo Dollar.
Look at them. I'll give you a good example. In Rochester, there's a place called Christian Flooring, and they have a big cross on their logo, and you go in there and buy linoleum. That has nothing to do with the church.
Well,
It's a dog whistle. They're going to get everybody through. Right. The people at church are like, oh, Christian Flooring, this looks great. And they go there. And I mean, let them. I mean, it's.
But this is a thing about atheism as well, right? These people, they turn atheist. They're like, right, I don't want to go to a church no more. Then they're left without community. And then all these atheists have started making their own secular churches.
That is true.
So they all go meet up on a Sunday. They're all still doing the same religious stuff that they were doing. They're just doing it with other people just like them who don't believe in God.
What do you think that is? Do you think that that's just human nature trying to replace tradition that it feels is missing in its life? Is that... Yeah, maybe. Or do you think that it is actually religion forming and taking hold?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different religion, isn't it? You're just putting a different label on something that really, at the end of the day, does it really matter? It's not going to change. Yeah, it's not, like you said earlier. It's not going to change how many breakfasts you have.
That's true. That's true. Exactly. I'll tell you what. If I find out tomorrow there's a God, there's going to be 3 breakfasts.
Celebrate.
Yeah. Me and God are having waffles. Cran, what do you think? Do you think the atheists really believe in nothing? Or do you think that they think it's cool, so they just kind of go with it?
It's a little bit, it has got a little bit more of an edge, atheism, as to agnosticism.
I feel like atheism,
like, yeah,
if it is a religion, it's like the too cool for the room guys religion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can't be anything other than agnostic. So when someone goes, I don't, there is no God. But the way I see atheism, if you believe there's no God, then you're saying there's no God. If you're saying there's no God, then you're saying you know that. You can't know that, can you? So you can only ever be agnostic. You can just be a bit of an edgy boy about it.
I love it. Stop being an edgy boy. And you know what? Principled uncertainty. Good point. Atheists are behind the science. No up-to-date person can side either way with confidence.
There you go.
I agree. I completely agree. Kind of my vibe from reading this page, Cardiff, tell me if I'm wrong. These are a lot of people who like the smell of their own brand. These are a bunch of people who smell their own farts and really enjoy it.
I think most of Reddit is, but yes, this one for sure.
Oh, this is one of the bigger fart echo chambers.
Yes,
that you're gonna find on Reddit, folks.
So, Vinny, let me ask you a question. I'll ask Cranberry too. If I had an envelope here and it had the answer, yes or no, there's a God, there isn't a God, it's blackness when you die, or it isn't. If I could give you the answer right now, would you even want it?
100% yes, I'd want it.
What if it's no? What if there's nothing? Would you really want
to know either way?
It's no surprise.
Well, hold on a second. If everything's black, there's no surprise either. There's a 50-50 chance of no surprise. I'd rather get surprised now.
You won't be there to know about it.
But so if I know now, like, okay, there is a God, there isn't a God, that is really going to dramatically change the way I live the rest of my life.
That's what I was going to ask. The answer is no.
You should be living your life that way anyway, shouldn't you?
Horse shit.
All right, stuff gets in the way. Stuff gets in the way, but the whole point is that, look, if you've got one life.
If you're telling me there's no God and there's no consequences.
So what does Vinny do first thing tomorrow?
If there's no afterlife, there's more.
Again, breakfast, Cardiff, breakfast.
3 breakfasts. So if there is a God, 3 breakfasts tomorrow. If there's no God, 3 breakfasts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, I think it does. It would definitely change the way I think of it, because it's something, you know why I'd want to know more than anything, guys, and this is the honest truth. Why I'd want to know more than anything is because I've wrestled with this question for so long. It's something that I've actually put a lot of time and thought to myself personally. So I would want to know for my own edification. Would it change how I behave? Yeah, I guess having that knowledge would. But it's really just because this has been such a big aspect of my entire childhood and my life. I'd really like to know how full of shit these people really were.
Yeah. But again, I think there could be, I don't know. I believe there's still a big chunk of these people who are full of shit, as you say, but that are doing it for what they believe are the right reasons. Like they are just trying to give people a better purpose, a better life. But yeah, then there's your, I'm not going to say Mr. Creflo Dollar is a shyster, but
is there an atheist equivalent to those grifters?
I'm sure
if we search,
I don't know.
I'm sure if we searched enough YouTubes, we'd find the guy with 500,000
Christianity, doesn't he?
That's true. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Like, sure, you know who Christians really hate? It's really funny. You know who Christians have like a big fucking thing with? A lot of Christians that I know, they hate Neil deGrasse Tyson. They really dislike that guy. Yeah, they really dislike him. And I had
my finger on the dump button. I wasn't sure where you were going with that. So
they hate Neil deGrasse Tyson. Because like he just is all about the science of stuff, and you know he's not really the kind of guy who's acknowledging the existence of a creator. So and a lot of people like him. Yeah, he's not great. He's not like, I wouldn't want to have a fucking beer with him, but they get really bent out of shape because people seem to like him. Like he's kind of like the dumb guy he's kind of like the dumb guy's science friend, where like a lot of dumb people just listen to what he has to say, so they see him as like a false prophet for science.
He seems to be able to explain his concepts to a wide audience.
Yeah, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, that is dangerous. Yes,
that's very dangerous.
And
you know what he doesn't do at the end? I've never seen Neil deGrasse Tyson
pass the basket,
do an altar call and lay hands on people in the name of science. I've never seen that happen. But
he's missing out.
Yeah,
he's missing out. He might have a gift. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I believe anymore, Vinny. You've changed me. You've left me the same as I was before. I don't know. But I do think...
I'll tell you this. All I've had this whole time is I've just been sitting here thinking of things that I've seen in really crazy church services. And man, one of these days I might end up writing a book about this because they really took me to some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I had the more generic version of it, just the regular kind of Roman Catholic Church. Go on Sundays, do the Stations of the Cross, all that stuff. But yeah, you definitely saw the more.
I remember
sideshow
going to my wife's like normal church and just being like, "Oh, this is what this is, huh?" And by the way, if you watch the Creep Off today, here's a fun thing that's happening. Carl has to go to church this Sunday because he had to spin the wheel.
Poor Carly Poo.
I'm going to send him to a crazy one. I'm going to give him a taste of my medicine.
Will you be filming?
No, I'm not going to that. I'm not getting it within 100 yards. That's his consequence. But there's weird stuff that happens in those churches, man. There's a big church in Rochester downtown that had what's called a deliverance ministry. You know these guys?
No.
That's the exorcist people.
Oh.
They had like the non-Catholic exorcists.
And they do that like out in public.
It's stuff like that.
Sunday,
it's stuff
Sunday
like
afternoons?
that makes me go, yeah, I'm an atheist.
Yeah, like when you hear that, and like they use code deliverance ministry, deliverance. So yeah, it's a weird world. Atheism's a religion, Christianity's a religion, Islam's a religion, Judaism is a religion, Shintoism is a religion, Buddhism is a religion. I think everybody believes in something a little bit. It just is the matter of your choice for the brand. If you choose to believe in nothing, it's still believing in something.
If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
And if you choose the Church Electric, you can get me on Twitter at Cranberry Electric, and I will send you all the sermons that you'll need to get up to date.
That is the best advice I've ever heard. As a new member, a converted member of the Church Electric, I thank you for your time today, Cran. And I got to tell you, man, it was a real pleasure to talk to you and meet you. You're very on point, sir. I really appreciate you.
Yes, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Plug the podcast. Plug the podcast.
Oh, if you want to listen to my podcast, go to the Cardiff Electric Podcast Network. That's where you'll find me. And I'll be on the YouTubes tomorrow doing some bits and pieces. So have a look out for that.
All right. I will do. I will definitely do that. Oi, oi, Cran.
Oi, oi,
Thank
boys.
you for joining us.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut him early. Sorry, bud. Sorry, pal. Cardiff, someone said this to me. Vinny, I hope this was cathartic. It was almost cathartic.
Almost?
It was almost. I can I put one more thing out there that I had to deal with as a kid? And
Please.
to get this therapy out, I'll give this one to you. I have someone in my family who claims that they are a prophetess of the Lord.
What does that mean? A prophet?
It means
like
that
a prophet?
God directly tells her, talks to her to give messages to other people.
This is like the psychics, the only ones in the room that can hear the voices of the dead.
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
But she also started her own church.
Hmm.
And it was in her house, in her living room.
Interesting.
And my mom made me go there every Sunday. So I didn't even get to go to like normal church. I went to someone's house for super laying out of hands, small, crazy stuff, if you get what I'm saying. So I just want everybody to know, I don't hate religion. I don't hate Christianity. I can't handle it anymore. I'm out. I'm so out. I got to stay. I just can't. That last part, getting that out, felt cathartic. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad we could help, Vinny. I'm glad we could help.
Didn't think I'd be talking about this part tonight.
No. Well, again, that's what we do here on subreddit surfing. Yeah. We dig deep. We dig deep. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I've struggled with a lot of things, a few things we've heard tonight, and just kind of I've thought over the years. But yeah, it always does come down to me, like those people that are having services like that and think that they have the power. You know, if you actually read, you know, some of the scriptures, some of the things, you know, that would have been in the Bible that I would have read. Again, I didn't read all of it like our friend Colt did, but it's a lot of that stuff is counter to what I've read. So I'm like, I'm wondering where these people are getting. Yeah, you know, again, the way I learned it was, well, God is the only one that can do things like that. So even that, but that's what kind of got me looking at the priest at the front of the church. It's like, well, if God's the only one, why am I listening to this guy? Like, who's he? How did he end up?
God's the only one, and God is here, but you're talking.
Yeah, and he's telling you're getting the message. Wait, anyway,
I'm with you there. So funny story. I'm gonna end the show today. I'll tell you this. I got very close to getting out of that home church, Cardiff, and it was so exciting for me because the only people that went to that church were literally members of the family. This was like a very small thing, and it was very culty, very, very culty, and I wanted out of it so badly. Finally, the person who was in charge said, "We're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go to this church," and they picked another church to go to. And I was like, "You mean there's going to be people my age there? You mean there's going to be people?" Like, I was like, "This is exciting." So we go there, and the first Sunday was the week after Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead died. And the pastor went up, and this is the only sermon I actually remember. This guy talked about the message that the Grateful Dead was trying to get out there about love, about, you know, each other. And maybe it wasn't the way that we think of love, but what they were trying to do is positive. And maybe there is a message that we can learn from these people who get, like, it was a really like beautiful, like kind of progressive message. And the person who was in charge of the home church this was the first Sunday there. Church was back in the living room the next week. We are not going to honor this goddamn heathen with
This
his
hippie
stinky
church.
Birkenstocks and his tie-dye bullshit. This is not the way of the Lord. And we were back at that church, man. I'll never forget it. And now every time I think of Jerry Garcia, all I can think about is how my freedom was taken away from me. God damn it. Atheism.
My it's funny. I had a little story I was telling earlier today too. So again, parents very religious. Every Sunday, 10:30 mass, without fail. We were there, and my parents were probably not just Sunday. They had maybe 4 or 5 days a week. They were in that church. But I had an older sister who had started going because of her work schedule, started going to an earlier mass. So like 8 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous on a Sunday morning. And one day so I'd still go. My sister would go at the 8 o'clock mass, and I would still go with my parents at 10:30. And one day my sister said, you should start coming with me to church in the morning. And I'm like, I don't want to go wake up Sunday for 8 o'clock mass. Forget that. She's like, no, you want to come with me Sunday mornings from now on. I'm like, okay, fine. So I decided to go with her the next week.
Okay.
You'll love this, Vinny. We went to Denny's. And for the next
Apache, how did you not get caught? How did your parents not ask you about the sermon and stuff if they went to the next?
Well, I mean, think about it. Once you've kind of done a 1-year cycle, you've kind of heard all the stories, right?
It's true.
Every once in a while, we would pop in and grab a church circular to walk into the house with, and
that's beautiful. That's hysterical.
Yeah. So that went on for a couple of years, and then I ended up going on my own to Denny's or wherever I went. Probably went to go sleep in my car somewhere. But again, it was never even with my sister, it was never we can't tell mom and dad because they're going to kick us out or it's going to be a problem. It was really, this would hurt them. Like this would be the worst thing we could do to them. I mean, so yeah, we just had to just keep living the lie. just to make them feel good.
That's
and isn't that what religion's all about?
Making other people feel good? Yeah, probably. Hey, I want to point this out, Cherokee Girl. That was the day that I grew a beard and a belly. I am the reincarnated spirit of Jerry Garcia, in case anyone was wondering. That's why I am so lovable and fucking jolly.
And a Dolphins fan.
Was Jerry Garcia a Dolphins fan?
Prove me wrong.
Jerry Garcia loved the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
Fins up. You guys are the best audience in the world. I really love doing this show. Thank you for joining us. This was episode 7. Cardiff, you had fun, yeah?
It was a deep subject, but yes, I had fun. But I do promise next week we will look for something a little more. Let's look for something we can really poke some fun at, maybe.
Yeah, next week we're going to get silly. And here's the deal, folks. This show is going to be a mixture of a lot of different stuff. We're just going to go with whatever. We're going to go with the topic. We're going to talk about it and do the best job that we can and hopefully entertain and hopefully, make you think a little bit, get dialogues going somewhere. Cardiff, thank you.
Thank you.
Where we follow Cardiff Electric, find them patreon.com/Cardiff Electric.
Yep. You
could find me at Vinnie Paulino on Twitter and Instagram. And you could also check out my other show, The Creep Off, on Patreon as well. Patreon.com/The Creep Off. We do a bonus episode every week. I believe Tony from Hack the Movies is going to join us on Wednesday.
Whoa.
There's a little exclusive.
Big time.
I love that guy. He's really great. He really is a great guy. So I'm excited to have him on for the first time. It's looking pretty good for that. And then also check out my other show, The Carlson Cast, where I talk to comedians traveling through Rochester performing at the Carlson. And you could find that on YouTube, The Carlson Cast. Right now, only the live episodes are going to YouTube. But check them out. We have some interesting conversations on there. And
thank you to everyone. We got to 1,000 subs.
We did it.
We did it. Thank you.
We did it because of you. And we're going to keep doing the show because of you. And you. And you. I'm talking to you.
We're going to bring the mirror out next weekend. This is for you, Dr. Steve. This is for you.
Oh, Dr. Steve is here. Time to go. Yes. Time to go. Just kidding, Steve Z. Just kidding, Steve Z. We love you. Until next week, aloha, subreddit surfers. Gagia.
Surfs up. Surfs up.